The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Warren Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now for the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Today, got the opportunity to welcome the current UFC heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, to the program. First of all, Stipe, great time to be a Cleveland sports fan right now, and welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's our land of champions.
Land of that's well, okay. Current data, yes, tells you that's land of champions. But first question, I got to know, what's up with the Browns quarterback situation?
Oh, man, just it's rough right now, but they'll figure their way out. I got faith.
So, I mean, we're just waiting for some stable arm like Bernie Kosar back in the late 80s.
Listen, I'm down for that. If you want to come back and throw him in.
Oh, yes, of course. We'll not bring up Ernest Biner's name as we talk about this, but you got a wrestling background. You've got an interesting backstory. You're a firefighter. Oh, yeah, and you're the UFC heavyweight champion. Let's just go back in time a little bit. I was doing some research on your senior year, 2000, and looking at the wrestlers who won state championships that year in Ohio. Ryan Lang, Kyle Ott, Mark Jane, Nate Yetzer, Ryan Bertine, Jake Percival. I mean, your senior class there in Ohio in Division I was incredible. What was it like growing up wrestling with that group of guys throughout the Cleveland area and the state of Ohio, knowing and seeing how good they became in college?
That was amazing, to watch that just high caliber, of wrestlers, at one time. It's pretty cool. And I went to high school nationals with them. I took seventh there, and then, as a state, we won the national tournament, as a team. So that was pretty cool too. I mean, it was amazing watching those guys and watching through college too.
So going back even further in time, when did you first step on the wrestling mat, and what made you say, I like this wrestling stuff?
I started in seventh grade. I just wanted to do something in the winter, and it was either basketball or wrestling, and I just started wrestling. I think I liked it more. It was funner and just more hands-on. It was my way of if it didn't go my way, it was my own fault.
So you're listed at 6'4", so that height didn't come when you started wrestling. That came after the fact.
Yeah. I walked into high school 6'1". I probably grew like 6 inches from like 8th grade to freshman year of high school.
People are looking at it like, wait, you play basketball? No, I'm into the wrestling thing now.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I like basketball, but I fouled too much. I was too aggressive, so I probably would have fouled out by the first quarter of every game I played in.
Now, what about baseball? I mean, that's also been a passion of yours. So when did you pick that up, and what gave you the eye to hit a round ball with a round bat?
Since I was a little kid, I mean, even during the summer, I would play when I go to my grandma's house. She watched me during the summer. I had a bunch of friends, where she lived, and we really played from sun up to sundown. We just played baseball all day long. Every day in the summer, it was amazing. And then I started playing when I was 9 or 10, and then, of course, every kid wants to be a Major League Baseball player. So I tried. Of course, it never happened, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I still love the sport.
So when we go into when you're leaving high school at Eastlake North and you make the decision to go to Cleveland State, were you still balancing the wrestling and the baseball side of it? I mean, which one was pulling you a little harder, and why was the decision made to go to Cleveland State?
I wanted to do both, because I had the opportunity at Cleveland State, but I was just trying to play baseball, get picked up somewhere, a good college, but it didn't go that way. So Cleveland State was close, and I'd like to be close to my mom, and they gave me a good offer, and so I went there. And, Coach Jack Effner, really, he's a good guy.
So as we look at the Cleveland State history, now they've got a new coach in Ben Staher, has been there a couple years. They recently announced they were going to cut the program, and then there was a big push to get it back. And what were your reactions when you first heard that Cleveland State was going to drop the program? And how quickly were you on the phone with Ben Staher to say, hey, we got to save this?
Oh no, I was actually irritated. I couldn't believe they're going to cut the longest sport they've had there. And, but I did whatever I did that could help, and I'm so happy they got it back. It's a great sport. Ben's an amazing coach. He actually was there when I started, when he started coaching. I was there, and he actually helped me become an even better wrestler, learning how to, better technique and all that stuff. And he's just an amazing person overall. Just, I love Cleveland State, man. Made me a better person, a better wrestler, and, just made me tougher overall. The coach after had amazing practices. I think that helped me definitely with my fighting career.
The world that is Stipe Miocic. One, how many times have people called you Stipe? Because when I didn't know who you were, I'm like, years and years ago, I see your name in print. I'm like, who is Stipe Miocic? And, I'm hearing it, you fight in the UFC, and I finally get to hear him. Oh, yeah, okay. Good thing I got that taken care of years ago. But, one, how often does that happen? And two, when you get into the world of wrestling and you get in the world of MMA, what was intriguing to you about it and that drew you into fighting?
Oh, yeah, with the whole name thing, I'm used to it. I mean, I get called worse at home by my wife, so I'm not even worried about it. But, the whole, MMA thing, you remind me of wrestling. We have practices, we have a team. It's individual, it's the same thing. We have practices, we have team, we have set schedule, we work on things. And, I just love the competition aspect. That's why I love fighting so much. And that's why, I grew to love it so much.
So let's talk about the decision to leave wrestling and go to baseball. After 2003, you had qualified for the NCAA championships, and then you went to pursue the baseball interest. How hard was it for you to walk away from wrestling?
It was real hard, honestly. It was tough just because, there's no way I would have made 197 again. My body was getting bigger. I was getting older. My body was maturing more. And it was just tough. It was really one of the hardest things I ever tell someone, especially Coach Everett, because he put a lot of time and effort into me, and I felt terrible. I think he's happy now. He coached the heavyweight champ, but it was tough. But listen, everything happens for a reason. I'm glad the way it happened, because I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
Well, what's it like to roll around a guy? I mean, you're tall at 6'4", and you're in college at 197. Then you've got a guy that's taller and bigger than you, and Russ Davey. What was it like when you two scrapped in the wrestling room?
Oh, Russ was awesome. Russ loved me because he would I let him draw me and do all his Greco-Roman throws, and I was like an amazing drill partner because I was like loosey goosey. So whenever he threw on me, or he loved it. I just let him do what he wanted. But man, it would hurt some days. Some days I walk out there so sore. But I love Russ, man. Russ is an amazing guy. Yeah, we lived together. He was a good roommate too.
So as we come into the UFC portion of our discussion, we talk about the style of fighting. And I was looking at your Fight Finder just to get an update on who you fought over the years. I don't see a whole lot of people that would identify themselves as wrestlers. There are people that obviously had wrestling backgrounds in that list, but what style of fighter would you prefer to fight? Are you looking to be, licking your chops at a stand-up guy more so, or are you looking to get your hands on somebody that can wrestle and be like, hey, all right, let's see what we got?
Honestly, I don't really care what it is. What style of fight they bring in. I have the best coaches in the world. I have all the confidence in them. Every fight they get announced and we get ready for it. They have an amazing game plan for me, and we just sit there and we work on it. And so, whatever we have to get ready for that fight, we will. And when the fight comes, I know I'm going to win just because how hard we prepared for them.
Any wrestlers out there that are in the UFC now, or any other promotions that you'd like to get your hand on simply because of their wrestling credentials, or somebody that you may have had a wrestling match with years ago that you need an opportunity to avenge that match?
No, not at all, man. I'm a lover, not a fighter, man. I got no ill will towards anyone. Good for them to beat me, but I'm not calling anyone out or looking for anyone. I'm just, I love what I do, and if you want me to fight, I'm going to fight.
No, it's well documented that you're a firefighter and a paramedic, and when it comes to training, and you stayed in Cleveland. Chael Sonnen brought this up when you were on his program about a week or so ago. You're kind of you stay at home guy. You love Ohio. You stay there. You train there. What is it like scheduling your training regimen around being a firefighter? I had a college roommate who's now a firefighter, and when he was breaking in, and he was actually a wrestler too, and we go in, and he'll be like 6 days on, 6 days off, 12-hour shifts on, off. I mean, what's it like to balance that firefighting in the EMT world with trying to get a good training regimen in?
Well, I'm pretty lucky. I'm actually part-time with 2 departments. So I pick my schedule a month in advance. And so, I can pick around what I'm doing and with my schedule and stuff like that. Still get my workouts in. So I train full time no matter what. And I could train at the fire station if I had to, if I couldn't switch the shifts around. But also if something comes up, like if a guy comes in or I have to go out of town, I have a lot of guys that'll cover for me or trade shifts for me. So I never miss a shift if I don't have to. How
do the two complement each other?
Oh, amazing. Because, when I get to the station, I'm usually the younger guy. So I usually get, busted balls on all the time and made me feel a little. So, it's like they don't care that I'm, the heavyweight champ of the world. They make me feel like I'm the little guy like I should be. So, and there's nothing to do with fighting. We talk about it, but I don't have to worry about, sparring or pad work or, exhaust myself. I just don't need to worry about my job, and we have a good time. And it's like a big playground at the fire station. So it definitely helps out. It's 180 from each other, which is great.
Describe the pressure or what goes through your mind as you walk down the aisle to the octagon and then when you're walking in to a burning building knowing that you've got to try to save somebody's life?
Well, the whole walking through the octagon, that's nerve-wracking every time because, like, I'm cool and calm. I feel good. And sometimes I'm like, people are booing me. I'm like, man, why do I do this? Like, I could be a fireman right now. Like, I don't have to worry about anyone booing at me, telling me how bad I suck. And, when I get to the octagon and they lock the door, I'm like, I can't leave now. I got to do this. But, doing the whole, fire thing, I mean, I have, like, usually 4 or 5 other guys with me at a time. So, we got each other's backs, which is great. So, it's just, you always got to be careful, but, it's great to have guys with you.
When you look at the wrestling background and then the coordination that's required, again, as we said, to hit a round ball with a round bat, one of the toughest skills to do in all of sports, how did the baseball coordination and the wrestling grit and determination, how did that all come together to make you a better fighter?
I think with baseball, just the swinging and throwing, the punches will help with that, the swinging the hips, my timing, my precision, stuff like that, and, my reaction time. With wrestling, it's a grind. You learn how to get through it. No matter how tired you are, how beat up you are, you're fine because, you've been through it already. You know what it's like. And so, wrestling, that's what I love about wrestling, man. It's the hardest thing you ever do. So everything else in life is a lot easier after you get done wrestling.
Is that what kind of drew you to it from wrestling? Is the fact that there's that grind? I mean, compare the two grinds. I mean, people talk about, people have said that wrestling was harder than MMA. I mean, what's your opinion on it? Is wrestling a tougher sport or is it a different type of toughness?
There's two. They're both tough. I don't care what anyone says. They're both tough. I mean, you got different things you got to learn and, and stuff like that. And wrestling is just a consistent, nonstop, for 6-7 months straight, plus you got to train after. I mean, I train all the time too, but I also can back off when I'm tired. And, wrestling, you can't, man. You might have, you're tired one week, but also 3 years later, you got to wrestle a match, So they're both, it's tough, they're both tough. I mean, honestly, they're so hard. I come home and I'm exhausted sometimes. I'm so exhausted I would eat because I just want to go to bed.
Now, one day, did you just wake up and decide, you know what, I'm going to make a goal to become the UFC heavyweight champion? Oh,
yeah. The minute I started training, mixed martial arts, that was my goal. I was like, listen, I'm going to start training. I realized I was doing pretty good at it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get picked up by UFC and then I'm going to be the heavyweight champion. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it. And luckily, I've had a great gym with amazing coaches. My head coach, Marcus Marinelli, is a wizard, and me and him, complement each other really well. He's like my best friend, and I'm lucky to have him.
Are there things about your wrestling career that you've carried on to the octagon that kind of drive you? The lack of an All-American placement in college, or any type of losing in the state finals as a senior year. Does that type of stuff still drive you to become a better fighter?
Well, now it does, since you brought it up, and I had to think about it again. No, of course it does. I mean, listen, man, I hate losing more than anyone, and that's the stuff that drives me, man. I don't like losing. Losing sucks, and doing such big things like taking second at national, or second at state, and seventh at nationals, and not All-American in college. It killed me inside. I worked so hard to it, I couldn't achieve it, and so I had an opportunity to do it again. And I found a sport that I love, and I was able to do it.
Going back to your time at Cleveland State. And tying into the previous question about, preparing yourself for do you think that wrestling at a non-powerhouse program at the Division I level kind of maybe prepared you more, or did it help feed that hunger more? Kind of about what we were talking about is you didn't get the state championship, you didn't get the All-American medal in Cleveland State. Did that make you hungry because you guys were not considered a powerhouse program?
I don't know. I just loved what Coach F's philosophy was, man. It's just his hard-nosed grinding, getting better every day and just, making yourself go beyond the point that you need to go, which I loved about him, and, I think we were pretty good when I was there. We were ranked, but, unfortunately, we didn't have any All-Americans, but, we were a great college team. We had a lot of good guys, and, if I was a powerhouse, it'd be cool, but I love what I was at. I would never change it.
As we go back to the UFC and look at your ascension to the heavyweight championship. I mean, when you first fought, I guess what was your first UFC fight was back in 2011. It's been this long to get, first a title fight and then an opportunity to hold the belt. What does that do to someone's psyche to know that, okay, man, it's competitive. There's a lot of people trying to get in here. I mean, what separated you from that pack and what ultimately gave you that opportunity to be like, all right, cool, I can fight for the belt. Not only I can fight for it, I can win it.
I think my coaches, and just like everything before that, training and being a wrestling at Cleveland State, going through the grind, and then, just everything building up. I just made myself mentally stronger and just, you know, and like I said, I have amazing coaches. I have an amazing wife, a family, friends that back me up, and it all came together, man. We have a great chemistry. We have a great, you know, just a great everything. It's just perfect, you know, and we're not going to change anything because, you know, we love what we have, and, you know, and I can't explain it. It's just a wish well.
You know, we talk about MMA giving wrestlers an opportunity. You know, there's not that many spots to be on an Olympic team. I mean, very few athletes in this country actually win wrestling gold medals and become household names. We just saw Helen Maroulis and Kyle Snyder win them. We've seen Jordan Burroughs win medals. But now with guys like Ben Askren in ONE FC, and then we've seen, you know, Dan Henderson, Daniel Cormier, Johnny Bones Jones. These are all wrestlers that have made names for themselves. Randy Couture, you know, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, all wrestlers. And then now you're in that group. You're a wrestler that's a UFC champion. When you look at somebody's opportunities to come out of high school, to come out of college, would you recommend fighting as an option right off the bat, or would you say give the freestyle Olympic world a go before getting into it?
I'm not good at making that call. I mean, it's, you know, I think it's, you know, what that person wants, what they want to do with their life. You know, I never wanted to fight. And then, you know, I started helping a guy out. I got hit in the face for the first time, realized it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to give this a try, but also stayed in school, became a fireman, you know, paramedic and all that. And so, you know, it worked out well for me. You know, I never have the same story, but, you know, you always have a backup plan.
When it comes to being a fireman, what drew you to that industry? What drew you to become, you know, basically, for lack of a better term, a public servant?
24 on, 48 off. I loved it. Being 24 hours. Like, I'm part-time, so I can pick my schedule, but just, you know, being there for 24 hours and then you have 48 hours off, it's amazing. You know, it sucks. You have to wake up at 4 in the morning for something, but, you know, that's the job I chose. But it's just in the unity and the camaraderie those guys have at the fire station is amazing. It's a great brotherhood.
What's the most harrowing situation you've been in as a firefighter?
We actually brought a woman back. She went out on a flatline, and we brought her back. That was like 10 months when I started too. I was green as you can be, and we brought her back, and it was a great feeling.
So after you go through something like that, you know, a guy like Alistair Overeem staring across you from the cage, you know, it may not seem as imposing since you've helped somebody come back to life.
Yeah, it was a pretty, yeah. You look at it that way. I definitely look at it that way. You know, I just there's a lot of things that can be, you know, be worse off, and you know, and just being part of stuff like that, and you know, makes you put a lot of stuff in perspective.
You know, in your 18 pro fight, 16-2 with 12 KOs, who's the scariest guy? When you walked in and they locked the cage up and you said, all right, I'm in the octagon here, no escape. Who's the guy that you looked at and meant like, okay, this guy's scary? I
think every guy. I mean, they're all big heavyweights. They all hit hard, they kick hard. I mean, they really knocked my head off. So I think every guy, I mean, every guy's tough to fight. You know, just every fight's your toughest fight. And I think it is, you know, hard as a nutshell.
One thing, and I know that trying to secure you to get an interview for this show, you know, was a bit of a task, and I got to thank your wife Ryan for giving me a call back here and helping set things up. But that kind of leads to the question of getting access, and then being media exposure. I mean, before you won the title, what were media requests like? And then, you know, that night, that following night, I'm sure your phone's blowing up. I mean, what's this journey been like from, you know, becoming, okay, it's Stipe Miocic, he's from Cleveland, he fights, he's pretty good, to, okay, you're the UFC heavyweight champ, you need to come on this show, you need to come on this interview, you need to do this article?
Yeah, just busy. That's all it is. You know, it's just a lot more busier. You know, we're getting better at it. You know, at the beginning it was a little rough because we didn't understand, you know, how to take it all in. But my wife's amazing, and she's a ride or die. She knows how to handle everything. So I'm pretty lucky. But yeah, it's just been more busy. Honestly, that's all it's been. What's the best thing you've basically learned the last couple months of being the UFC heavyweight champion? Just. You know, keep doing what you're doing. You know, people love you and people hate you, man. Just keep loving what you're doing. All right, I got a little fun segment that I usually bring up on the wrestling community. It's a short time segment. I'm going to go 10 questions in 90 seconds. Do you think you can meet the challenge? Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Question 1: the best wrestling match you've ever watched?
Best wrestling match. Can't say it's a leap for it.
If you won the Olympic gold, what would you be having for dinner?
A pizza.
The best Cleveland area wrestler you remember watching growing up?
Ryan Bertine.
All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
Orange.
Favorite wrestling movie?
God, what's it called? What's that one with the dude with the guy, the shooter? What's his name? Vision Quest.
If you win the Powerball, what's the first college wrestling program you're going to start?
Cleveland State.
Well, you've already got one there. You're gonna, okay, well, fully fund.
Make it bigger.
Okay, make it bigger. Your favorite international wrestler to watch?
Anyone from America.
Most beloved Cleveland sports hero, LeBron James or Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn?
Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn.
Single best place to eat in Cleveland, because we've got nationals coming up here, Division I and Division III in the coming years.
Mario.
All right. And who would you rather have call your fights, Joe Rogan or Harry Doyle?
Oh, God, I have to go Joe Rogan because I've been with him so long.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Okay, now I want to touch on you. By the way, you passed with flying colors. Last couple questions I want to focus on don't necessarily involve you, but they talk about Olympic wrestling. How much of the Olympic wrestling did you have a chance to take in down there in Rio?
Not much. I was so busy. Honestly, I try to catch them as much as I can. I mean, I watched one match. If that, it was tough. I watched a lot of it online, the highlights and stuff like that.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about Kyle Snyder because he attended the fights out there, and he tweets that I want to fight, at UFC, and then all of a sudden Damon Martin comes out with a story, and it just kind of blows up. From what you've seen from Snyder, how long do you think it would take him to become a very competitive, fighter? And I guess it would be the light heavyweight division.
I don't know. It just depends how much he trained and how hard he gave it. I mean, I think he'd be good. He's tough. Wrestlers definitely have a upper hand in the MMA world. I think it'd probably take him a year or two.
Now, when it comes to that type of training, I mean, what was the biggest thing you had to adjust to coming from wrestling? And, a lot of people say it's their kicking or their striking, but what was the biggest thing you really had to make that effort to learn to make sure that you were competitive?
Just to stand up.
What was the hardest part about the stand up?
Just keep my hands up and I get hit in the face all the time. Just trying to move and keep my hands up and learn how to throw a jab and a right cross and then, left hook and doing different combinations and doing a combination and angling off to another combination and just, the more, just doing it my way, like in the wrestling. Like when you learn to do it wrestling, you just hit to a single and then switch to a double, then back to a dump or something.
Yeah, because, I growing up, playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and okay, he's not punching when I'm throwing a punch. My buddy starts fighting MMA. He's like, yeah, you're throwing a punch, they're throwing a punch at the same time. It's a little strange because that's not how you see it. That's not how you picture it.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Last things I want to touch on are, one, they're all Cleveland-based, so, you got a chance to do some BP at Progressive Field, and, of course, I'll still always refer to it as Jacobs Field, just because when they opened, I was a freshman in high school. I've seen a game there when it was Jacobs. I've seen a game there when it was Progressive, but what's it like to get there on a Major League Baseball diamond, even though it wasn't, you wanted to be there playing, but to get the opportunity to swing a Louisville Slugger in BP and knock some balls over the fence?
Oh, it was a dream come true, man. It was, I got to hang out with those guys, got to, just watch what they do every day, and it was amazing to be part of it.
And finally, what's the most awesome thing about Cleveland, Ohio?
Just the people. I mean, honestly, the people are amazing.
We've obviously you gotta figure out when the next title defense is. You got fires to put out, babies to save, cats to get out of trees, all that type of stuff. What's next for you?
Moving to our new house in 3 weeks.
3 weeks. All right, we've had Stipe Miocic, the UFC champion, on the show here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Stipe Miocic UFC. And let me just spell that for you. STIPE MIOCIC UFC. That's a lot of C's. That's a lot of O's. Stipe, I want to thank you for your time, man. It was enjoyable.
Hey, thanks for you. Thanks for having me on, and you have a great night.
Stipe Miocic, our first UFC heavyweight champion. Now, we've had other UFC fighters on before and other people that have held belts before. So this is the first time we've had the opportunity to have a current belt-holding champion from the UFC here on the program. This is episode 283 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. For those of you coming over from the MMA world, this is the flagship show of the Matt Talk Podcast Network at matttalkonline.com. If you like this show, check us out on iTunes by subscribing. You can go to matttalkonline.com/getshorttime, or there's a multitude of ways that you can listen. If this is your first time listening and you're not coming from the MMA world, you can go to matttalkonline.com/listen, and there are links to every particular preferred podcasting app. Although, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of SoundCloud, but we're there. But we also got free iOS apps, free Android apps that you can listen to this program, and iHeartRadio, you name it, we are there. You can do that again by going to matttalkonline.com/listen. Couple topics I want to touch on before we get to the end of the show. This is being released on September 30th, which you've heard throughout the course of the week and the past couple weeks, actually, here on all 14 shows on the Matt Talk Podcast Network. It's International Podcast Day. Yes, I have been talking about this super nerdy thing for a number of weeks. Yes, today I'm actually wearing the International Podcast Day shirt. I am a super nerd. I love it. The community over there in the world of podcasters is a lot like us in terms of the wrestling community. Passionate, driven, real family-oriented. So I'm basically representing both my communities here today. With that day coming down the pipe, it's been a busy week here. This is the 10th episode of, or actually the 10th show on the Matt Talk Podcast Network to come out this week. That's right, 10 shows since Monday. So you are getting just blasted with content right now. And we've had the Super 32, and we've had Stipe Miocic here on Short Time. Every show, almost every show on the network has put something out. I know our 4 affiliates, Richard Immel with Bonus Points, Earl Smith with Sudden History, Kyle Klingman with On the Mat, and the PA Power Wrestle podcast with Jeff Upson and Eric Knopsnyder. They've all put out episodes this week as well. We got new episodes of the Buena Vista Wrestling Beavercast with Monty Mers, a new episode of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling, which just renewed for a 3rd season here on the Matt Talk Podcast Network, a new episode of the Virginia Wrestling Roundup. I mean, we just had a full slew of shows here this week, and they're released this day, 3 more today, as we release this for International Podcast Day. And, it's just kind of fitting. I launched the Virginia Tech show 2 years ago on the very first, actually, let's see, 1 year, 2 years ago. This is the 3rd International Podcast Day. So other things I want to talk about. This show is not possible without the gracious support of several people and one company. And that company that currently provides our gear, which goes to our crew of team members here at Matt Talk Online. If you join the team, you go to matttalkonline.com/join the team. You can contribute to this program. You get some cool stuff in return. Some of those cool things involve gear provided by Compound Wrestling, Compound Clothing. At cmpteamwear.com. They've got some specials going on right now, and you can outfit your team for this upcoming season. There's some deals. You can go to matttalkonline.com/SUPA, SUPA. That's a special deal going on specifically for Compound and cmpteamwear.com. Check them out. Cliff Frutwell has been a friend for a long, long time, and I met him actually at the Bison Turf years ago. News coming around. The owner of the Bison Turf in Fargo, North Dakota, believes they could have their doors open by December 1st. Believe it when I see it, but it gives me hope that the streak next year can continue at 19 consecutive years at the lovable dive that is the turf. So, again, big thanks to Cliff Frutwell and his team at Compound at cmpteamwear.com. You can also get there by going to matttalkonline.com/teamwear. Other things to talk about is that team. That team that we talked about. There's a couple questions throughout this episode for Stipe Miocic that came from the team members. Andrew Burgoyne, Rodney Williams, Chris Barnes, throwing out their questions through the Matt Talk Online Facebook group, the private Facebook group. If you're a team member, you get to get an advanced knowledge of who's coming on the show and get to ask some of those questions. You also get access to the digital publications that we put out, the Fargo Almanac, the NCAA Preview Guide, draft glasses, hats, shirts, as I said, the Tri-Blend Dry Fit. That's just, it's actually the Tri-Blend. The Dry Fit is something else, but it's that really super soft. Yeah, it's a great shirt. People love it. It was on TV during the Olympics. Thank you, Eric Sanders. But you get you get access to that. And there's another thing I'm trotting out, and it's kind of in an alpha or beta stage. I'm not a tech guy in terms of the testing stuff, but I'm putting an online almanac together, which basically is serving as my reference point. You know, so many times I've got to dig up things. People ask me for stats all the time. Well, I'm putting them in a certain place. And this is mainly for my access. Okay, I need to figure out where all my All-Americans are in Fargo and say I don't really feel like pulling up an Excel sheet. Well, I'm putting this in a database. Yes, folks, I'm finally learning databases. I started in August, and now I've got just piles and piles of All-Americans from Division I, Division II, Division III, the NAIA, California Community Colleges. I'm building an online resource, and you can get access to that online resource by simply becoming a team member at the $5 a month or higher level. It is constantly going to grow, and it's something I'm really, really, really super excited about putting out. It's for me, but you will get access to it. It's like I'm not selling the data. Let's get that clear. This is something that's a value added on to your team membership, and right now our team members have already gotten a couple of those things. Controversially, there was an article that came out, actually two articles that came out on Flow Wrestling this week, and it's caused a bit of ire amongst those within the sport of wrestling, and deservedly so. We all saw the shenanigans, yes, shenanigans, that went on during the Olympic Games with the officiating. Christian Piles, Dan Lobdell, and Andrew Spade did some work together, crunching some numbers and coming out to see exactly were there actual shenanigans involving in the assignments. Now, they came out with some numbers that seemed to show that, yes, there was a disproportionate number of bouts that involved from three countries, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and Russia, that saw a certain bit of questionable officials constantly on their mats. Now, one thing I want to establish beforehand, and I'm not trying to destroy the reference point of the story here. The assignments, just so we know, at the Olympic Games and the World Championships are not random. Now, that's really not a key point to the fact that there were a disproportionate number of sketchy officials refereeing matches from these countries. That's not the random thing isn't an issue if you remember that, okay, these aren't random. You have to understand they're assigned. That is exactly where the corruption point lies. That is the point that I think is made clear is, okay, we've got an issue. We've got corrupt. Here are why. Here's a disproportionate number of calls and matches with these countries. That is an absolutely great point that is statistically verified. Now, I do have a slight issue with just the random comment because it is not random. It has not written in the rule book that it's random. Zach Arrett, a United World Wrestling official from the United States, he was the referee who assigned the officials in the 2015 World Championships. He told me it wasn't random. Now, there are assignments that make it appear random, but Zach himself told me he did not believe that he was randomly assigned at the Olympics this year because he was also on the mat. So take the random thing out. Remember, if it's random, then some of these 1 in a million type of stats tend to lend themselves to be like, okay, yeah, that's okay. Well, of course it's going to be that because it's not random. Now, if it was random, you'd absolutely see this stuff in its form. But I don't want to make that the point of it. It's just something to consider that, there's certain numbers you gotta sit there and look at and be like, well, it's not random, of course. But the lion's share of that information is fantastic. And being a stats geek that I am, I love the fact that Andrew and Dan and CP put that together and actually and threw it out there because it's worth talking about. It's worth discussing because what happened to Franklin Gomez was an absolute travesty. Well, it was an injustice. Say what you want about what happened to Mendarkhan Ganzarig of Mongolia with the cheering. Yeah, okay, he doesn't fist pump. He probably doesn't get hit the caution. But again, the referees broke protocol. That's got to be confirmed by all. It's going to be a whistle, an attention, and confirmed by all three officials. So, I mean, Ganzarig got hosed in terms of protocol, and Gomez just got it taken from him. And, of course, the crew for the officials are suspended. Takeaways from this particular situation. Absolutely, this should be addressed by United World Wrestling. We talked about the addressing of this situation regarding the Mongolian protest again in the match with Ganzarig and Navruzov from Uzbekistan. Of course, the infamous match where the Mongolians stripped and they got banned 3 years. The coaches got banned 3 years, not the country. The coaches got banned for 3 years. We have yet to see anything from the Russians involving what happened at Cadet Worlds. We talked about that, Dennis Hall, Terry Brands, and I on the World Wrestling Resource podcast. So you can check us out talking about that particular sanction there. That episode came out before Flo released this revealing piece. So, yeah, this is a problem. It definitely is a black eye for international wrestling, especially after we've done such a great job of trying to resurrect the sport and get it back. We're away from the stupid ball draw era. We're away from the binary 1-0, 0-1, 1-0 scoring of wrestling. We had tremendous Olympic Games in terms of the actual wrestling, but it needs to be exposed. And, kudos to putting it out there and getting people to talk about it. I'm wondering, though, really, is the International Federation going to be like, okay, yeah, they were assigned. We know they were assigned. Now, devil's advocate, the referees at the NCAA championships are not randomly assigned. And the referees at the NCAA championships they get the finals performances based on how they did throughout the course of the tournament. So my understanding is, okay, if these guys are rated highly, which then is actually another question to ask, are they rated that highly because they give favorable calls to other countries. That's another rabbit hole to go down. That's something to definitely consider. That would definitely that would lend more credence to the corruption allegations that Flow Wrestling and the crew have basically, well, alleged. That's the word we're using here. Again, it's not proven until it's been proven, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not shooting down this at all because it's worth talking about. And kudos for the stats to back it up. Again, I'd say about 90% of those stats I'm sitting there jaw dropping. It's I want to nitpick the 10%. That's my prerogative, and it's not an indictment on what I think about the research that went into it. So that being said, I really got nothing more to add. I've had a busy week. It's been crazy. All-Star Classic stuff's coming out. Ty Walls, Conor Medbury, first match announced. I'm working on the press releases to get those out with the NWCA throughout the next couple weeks. Once those are assigned, you can keep an eye on the NWCA's Twitter at NWCA Wrestling for when they're releasing it. The individuals are going out kind of whenever the schools want to announce them, so that's cool. Whenever they sign the contract, they can go out. The official match announcements, though, are coming out when both contracts have been returned and we get the release ready to go. So again, Ty Walls, Conor Medbury, the first match announced. There's Miles Martin's going to be wrestling somebody big. His opponent has not been announced, but we do have 141, Dean Heil, Bryce Meredith. Release will be coming on that within the coming days, if not by the time you listen to this. So that being said, busy time. Cleveland, November 5th for the All-Star Classic. And that's one thing I'm kicking myself for. I did not ask Stipe Miocic about the All-Star Classic. Talk about a great just dropping the ball. Great. Dropping the ball. I could have done that. Anyway, long story short, it's going to be a good day of wrestling. Preseason Nationals that weekend. Check out the Super 32 episode. That was 282. We got 283. I don't even know what episode we're on. We've done so many short times. Our pets' heads are falling off. Let's see. I'm just going to verify this before I say anything else that's dumb. Okay, this is episode 284. I'm going to go have to, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. It's because sometimes people make mistakes. It happens. That being said, enjoy your weekend. If it's not the weekend, enjoy the rest of your week. If it's not the week, enjoy the weekend. Thank you for spending your time with me because I'm rambling on because it's plenty of time. You've always got time for short time. That's how I'm closing the show. Goodbye.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.